Right, stupid dog training advice that people give on the internet. So I saw a Facebook post the other day, and I was going to have an argument with a stranger on the internet, and even saying that out loud, how pathetic does that sound? What a waste of time. But it did give me an idea, and I thought to myself, what if I spun this? So rather than trying to change the mind of someone who's definitely not going to have their mind changed because they're in a comment section of a Facebook post, what if a wider audience might see this and think that's maybe a different way of looking at this, that gives a little bit more context, and it might actually help some people who are in a similar situation, or it might stop some people from making themselves look stupid online. So this came about from a post in a local Facebook group where a couple of people had recommended me to help. The person who was asking for help basically said, "Hi, can anyone recommend a dog behaviouralist?" It is behaviourist, but I'm not going to get too fussy because it's just a made-up title. That can help with excessive barking. Thank you. Pretty generic, no context given, fairly just like need a bit of help, need to speak to someone. And so people have tagged me in it, which is amazing and much appreciated. So, with that lack of context, now I wouldn't, as someone who works with dogs every single day, and I wouldn't jump in to give an advice on this post because I'm missing a few key things. What the dog's barking at, what's motivating them, why are they barking at it, what the owner does when that happens, like what's kind of the context and how does it all break down. All of these little layers, and plenty more that we would need to delve into. Is this something that's just started, or has the dog always barked at it? Loads and loads of stuff that we would go into to try and kind of pin down, right, what is our exact scenario, because I'm a little bit methodical like that. I need to know the exact scenario so I can start picking it apart. People on Facebook don't need that information and are clearly more knowledgeable than I. So one lady: water pistol, squirt the face and say no, does no harm but makes them listen. It does work. 27 replies on that, which I could have been one of those who replied to that person who's never going to fucking listen, but I didn't. A few people trying to give him some like dog training 101, like positive reinforcement works, blah, 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 blah. What one person did make me laugh. So they put, as much as this may seem like an easy go-to, this is a thing called negative reinforcement. It's actually not negative reinforcement. It is positive punishment. So positive in the sense of adding, like addition, so like add and subtract. Positive, add punishment, add a punisher, and it's punishing because the dog doesn't like it and it reduces the behavior. So it's actually positive punishment, not negative reinforcement. But this person's coming from a good place, essentially, and they've said, look, find the reasoning behind the barking first. Fine, like doing, doing their best to have an argument with a stranger on the internet, thankless task. Here we get this is where the woman who I nearly had the argument with steps in, and this is where I had to stop myself and go, this is not worth it. So, not true at all. It can work amazingly quickly and does not cause any harm or issues. So essentially, we're talking about a dog who's barking too much. We don't know what at. We don't know why. We don't know if it's a reactive dog and it only barks at other dogs on walks. We don't know if it's just barking at the window because it's bored. We've got no context whatsoever. This woman's put, the issues are humanising dogs and saying you need to understand why they are barking. No, you do not. Excessive barking is a dog being naughty, simple as. How can you be so black and white about something you know absolutely nothing about? And this is kind of where this woman lost me immediately, because I was like, get the full picture before you start giving advice, because you need to know that context is king when it comes to training your dog and understanding why your dog is behaving in a certain way. The people are getting an argument. I mean, I won't go through it all, but there's usually no reason. It's just being a nuisance. You'll never find out because they can't talk English and can't write. So you have to show leadership and teach them no. I've studied years of psychology of dogs and rescued many Rottweilers. Studied where, I wonder? The School of Discovery Channel. So people are arguing with this woman. Someone else has said that they've got some, they're kind of like getting into a bit of a cock off with like, well, I've studied this and I've studied animal behavior management, and like no one cares. This one did make me laugh a little bit. Cesar Millan is the greatest dog behaviorist ever in history, and it's quite simple that those who criticise him do not understand dog psychology at all. He has saved thousands of dogs from euthanasia. He has swimming pools, yoga, even acupuncture if dogs need it to calm them from pent up stress. And this is where I think we kind of find where this lady's education has come from. And it is back to back episodes of The Dog Whisperer. Now, don't get me wrong, I used to love The Dog Whisperer. The Dog Whisperer is probably one of the things that got me into dog training. And I think a lot of the stuff that he does in those programs make a lot of sense. Like he gets his little rollerblades out and he goes for a little rollerblade with the dogs. and the dogs are loving it and they're getting some of that pent out energy up. He gets the dog to have an outlet for some of the energy and the pent up stress that they've got, and he teaches them right and wrong. He does also do some stuff which I think was he does it because he wants to be like a Crocodile Dundee. He wants to have that magic ingredient so that people go like, don't waste your time with that other dog trainer because you need the dog whisperer, because he does this thing where he goes and the dog listens. Or like, I've just scared my dog doing that. Sorry, mate. It works because I scared him making that stupid noise. There's some like mystique around it and some stuff that like is kind of meant to be in there so that you don't understand it. But then people try and replicate it. You used to love the dog whisperer. Don't lie and pretend that you haven't tried to alpha roll a dog when it's behaving badly, because you definitely have. But anyway, I digress. So this lady's education has clearly come from the Discovery Channel, which is fine. I think it's still on Discovery. I don't even know the Discovery Channel still exists. She's watched too much of that and now thinks that she is a dog expert. Because this worked with her Rottweilers, and we don't know any context about that. We don't know if they were barking at the window and then that worked. And this lady might sit indoors all day so she can catch them every time they do it. So then they've learnt not to do it. We don't know. Again, lack of context, people arguing in Facebook comments, stupid. And she says some stuff about like, she's basically said force-free trainers that don't know what they're doing. You need a balanced trainer who understands. And like, we don't need to get into all of that. But giving dogs yeses and nos. You can do this, you can't do that. I don't see anything particularly wrong with what she said in that sense. I think we've jumped to loads of assumptions on what is essentially a one line post with 2 spelling mistakes and no grammar. What I do want to talk about though, and the reason I've rambled on about this, is the water pistol thing. So I'm not going to focus on fixing this person's problem because I don't have the context to be able to fix it. What I'm going to focus on is there's a couple of people, 2 different people who have said spray water in the dog's face, and I want to focus on why I don't do that and why I wouldn't do that. A little bit of story time. So my dog Frank, I had him before I got with my wife, and she had a cat. When we moved in together, so we've obviously been seeing each other. I'd taken Frank round there. He was a bloody nightmare with a cat, and it got to the point where we moved in together, and we were just like in the shit because Frank would just obsess about this cat, and he would want to chase it, and he would get really, really stressed out if the cat was there. And we got a behaviourist round who's actually recommended on this post, funny enough. And this guy came around, he charged me a couple of £100. It was meant to be a 3-hour session. He was there for about an hour and a half. He turned up 20 minutes late, by the by. But the result was, he said, right, every time Frank chases the cat, I want you to spray him in the face with water. Now, Frank was a sausage dog, bear in mind, and I'm 6'3". I needed to be at Frank's level and spray him in the face with water. Now, for that punishment to work, your timing's got to be pretty good because you've got to catch him. So there's no good catching him when he's full flight running. He's already practiced like half the behaviour. Like he's already done the stalk it, chase it, etc., etc., etc. So he's already kind of in that flow, and then we're interrupting it too late. So for that punishment to actually be effective, I need to catch him before he runs to say, don't you even think about it. And that is how I see that punishment actually being effective. So when he said it, I was kind of like, I don't think that's going to be practical because I'm not going to be able to catch him every time. And if I don't catch him every time, I'm just completely diluting the punishment there. I'm basically saying, look, you can't do that when I have a spray bottle in my hand and when I'm here. So basically, Frank thinks, right, wait for that dickhead to be out of the way with his stupid bottle, and I'll just do it when he's not there. That's what tends to happen in those scenarios. I sprayed him a couple of times with the water bottle. I didn't feel good about it. I felt like a bit of a dickhead. He said, try that for a bit. If that doesn't work, I'll bring you an e-collar around and you can just electrocute him instead. I think the e-collar actually would have probably been a better solution than the spray bottle in that sense, because the e-collar, he wouldn't have thought I was a dickhead when I did it because he wouldn't have really known. He would have known that his behaviour was leading to the punisher. So I actually think that probably would have been a more effective tool to stop it. But I've never used an e-collar, so I don't know how effective that would have been. I wasn't happy to use an e-collar on Frank. I didn't want to do that. So didn't take him up on that. And instead, what I did was I kept Frank on a lead in the house and I managed his interactions with the cat, and I gradually exposed him more and more and more. And it was with the cat not moving around. And then eventually we got to the point where the cat was on the floor and Frank was on the floor as well. And the cat learned not to run. Frank learned that he couldn't chase because I had the lead and I wouldn't let him. It took a while. That story is all to say, spraying your dog in the face with a water bottle, your timing needs to be excellent. You need to be prepared for the fact that the dog's going to think you're a bit of a prick, and you need to be prepared for the fact that the dog will probably still bark. So if it's barking at a window, the dog will probably still bark when you're not there, because that punisher isn't severe enough. So all in all, this Facebook advice of spray the dog in the face with water with no context, I can tell you without the context that that wasn't the best thing for that dog, and there'll be a lot more to it. I hope that was useful to someone, anyone. Saved me arguing with someone on Facebook and let me just vent it all out on here. If you do like this format of video and you find it useful, give it a like. As always, if you need help with your reactive dog, or you just want to train the foundations, loosely, recall, socialization, all that good stuff, then drop me a message.